The desert stretched in every direction, wide and endless, its sand glowing like liquid fire under the twin suns. The heat shimmered above the dunes, bending the horizon and turning the air into a sea of light. A small figure walked slowly across the blazing expanse. His name was Ben, a lone explorer from Earth, sent to study this barren planet called Oralis. Ben had been walking since morning. His boots sank into the soft sand with every step, and his suit's cooling system hummed faintly, trying to protect him from the burning air. Around him there was nothing but sand and sky. The only sound was the low whine of the wind as it swept over the dunes. He checked the scanner strapped to his wrist again. The screen flickered with static before showing a faint reading, a soft pulse repeating at steady intervals. The signal was weak but clear, coming from somewhere deep beneath the surface. He frowned, wiping the sweat from his forehead inside the helmet. There it is again, he muttered to himself. Something's down there. For the last 3 days, the signal had guided him across hundreds of kilometers of desert. At first, he thought it was a sensor error, but the pattern was too regular, too deliberate. Something was transmitting from under the dunes, something old and powerful. He climbed another dune, breathing hard as his pack shifted on his back. The slope was steep and the sand slid away under his boots. When he reached the top, he stopped to catch his breath. The desert looked the same as always, endless waves of gold stretching out under the suns. Yet his scanner blinked faster now, the beeping turning into a rhythmic tone. The source was close. Ben slid down the dune, half running, half falling. The sand gave way easily, carrying him down like a slow avalanche. At the bottom, he stopped and knelt, brushing the surface with his glove. Beneath a thin layer of sand, he felt something solid. He dug with his hands until his fingers touched smooth stone. It was cool to the touch despite the heat. Clearing away more sand, he uncovered a circular platform about 3 meters wide. It was made of a golden material that reflected the sunlight like polished glass. Strange symbols were carved around its edge, faintly glowing as if alive. Ben stared at it in silence. His scanner beeped rapidly now, the signal coming from directly below the platform. "This is it," he whispered. "You're real." He set down his pack and pulled out a small excavation tool. The sand was loose, so it didn't take long to clear the rest of the surface. At the center of the platform was a small circular indentation. When he touched it, the indentation glowed brighter. There was a low hum, deep and steady. The ground trembled slightly beneath him. The circular plate rotated with a grinding sound and then split open, revealing a dark passage leading down into the ground. Cool air rushed up from below, smelling faintly of metal and dust. Ben stared into the darkness. The steps that descended into the earth were made of the same golden stone, worn smooth by time. Faint light pulsed along the walls like veins carrying liquid fire. He hesitated for a moment, feeling his heart pound in his chest. Every explorer dreams of a discovery like this, a lost structure, a forgotten civilization, but the sudden reality of it made him nervous. He was alone, far from base, and his radio had gone silent hours ago. Still, curiosity pushed him forward. He switched on the light mounted on his shoulder and stepped onto the first stair. The sound of his boots echoed faintly as he began to descend. The heat from above faded quickly, replaced by a cool, dry air that smelled ancient. The deeper he went, the stronger the hum became. After several minutes, the stairs opened into a vast underground chamber. Ben stopped, speechless. The city stretched out before him like a dream. Buildings of glass and metal rose in elegant curves, their walls glowing with lines of light. The ceiling of the cavern was lost in shadow, but from its height hung long crystal shapes that reflected the faint glow below. Pools of still water mirrored the lights, creating the illusion of a sky beneath his feet. Ben took a slow step forward, his footsteps echoing across the empty street. The silence was heavy but peaceful. Everything looked untouched, as if its people had only just left. He knelt beside a wall, running his hand over the surface. The material felt warm, almost alive. His scanner beeped softly, showing energy readings stronger than anything he had recorded on the surface. "This place is still powered," he said quietly. "After all this time." He began walking through the narrow streets, his light dancing over arches and doorways carved with the same glowing symbols. He saw no signs of life, no movement, yet he felt watched. The hair on his arms prickled inside the suit. He found a tall structure in the center of the city, a kind of tower rising high into the cavern roof. Its base was surrounded by a circular platform similar to the one he had found above. Strange pillars lined the edges, each covered in symbols that pulsed with gentle light. Ben stood before it, wondering what purpose the place had served. A temple, a control hub? He approached the nearest pillar and placed his palm against it. The symbols flared bright white and a deep chime echoed through the chamber. The ground beneath him vibrated. The air shimmered as lines of light spread out from the tower, connecting every building around it in a radiant web. Ben took a step back, alarmed yet fascinated. The entire city seemed to awaken. The walls glowed brighter. The pools of water rippled and the hum grew into a low melodic tone that resonated through the air. A voice spoke softly, not through his ears but inside his mind. "Skyborn, you have returned." Ben froze. Who said that? The voice was calm, layered with an echo that sounded both human and not. The sand remembers. The light remembers. "You carry the mark of the Makers," Ben shook his head. "I don't understand. I'm an explorer, just a researcher from Earth." The voice paused. "Earth. The word is forgotten here. Yet your blood carries its sound." Ben felt dizzy. He looked around as the tower glowed brighter, casting long shadows across the floor. "Are you still alive?" he asked. "Who are you?" "We are the Thurn, the firstborn of light, the builders of this sanctuary. We waited for the one who walks under two suns." Ben took another step back, breathing heavily. "You've been waiting for me?" "For one like you," the voice replied. "The city sleeps until the Skyborn returns. You opened the gate. You have called us back." A gentle wind stirred the air. Shapes began to appear at the edges of the light, tall, slender figures made of soft gold light. Their faces were smooth, featureless at first, but as they moved closer, faint outlines of eyes and mouths appeared. They looked almost human, though their movements were slow and graceful. Ben's instinct told him to run, but something in their calm presence held him still. One of the figures stepped forward and raised a hand in greeting. "Welcome, Skyborn. You stand within Thurn Vallis, the heart of our memory." Ben swallowed hard. "I don't mean any harm. I found your city by accident." The figure tilted its head slightly. "There are no accidents. The sands choose who may enter. You carry the spark of those who came before." "I don't even know what that means," Ben said quietly. "You will," the voice said. "The Seers will speak." The figures began to move, circling him slowly. Their light dimmed and brightened in rhythm with the city's pulse. Ben felt warmth spread through the air as if the city itself was breathing. They led him toward the base of the tower, where a wide archway opened into a hall filled with crystal pillars. In the center stood a raised platform with a seat carved from pure white stone. The figures gestured toward it. Ben hesitated. "You want me to sit there?" "It is the throne of the Skyborn," one said. "The city will know its king." He laughed nervously. "I think you've got the wrong person." The air shimmered again and the seat glowed softly as if waiting for him. Against his better judgment, Ben stepped forward. The moment he touched the seat, light poured from the floor and wrapped around him like a warm breeze. The symbols on the walls flared in response. His scanner beeped wildly, detecting energy levels far beyond anything human technology could measure. The entire hall seemed alive, resonating with the same heartbeat-like rhythm he had felt earlier. Ben felt something brush his thoughts, a sense of connection, as if the city itself was reaching out to him. Images flashed before his eyes, shining towers under blue skies, people walking through streets of gold, and great ships rising into the heavens. Then just as suddenly the images faded, leaving him breathless. He opened his eyes to see the golden figures kneeling before him. Their heads bowed low, their voices soft and united. "The prophecy is fulfilled," they said. "The Skyborn has returned. The king shall rise again." Ben stood frozen, the glow around him fading to a gentle pulse. The city had gone silent once more, waiting. He looked down at the kneeling figures, unsure whether to speak or to flee. His hands trembled slightly as he realized what had just happened. He had come to study an empty desert. Instead, he had awakened something ancient. The city beneath the dunes was alive, and now it was watching him. The glow of the golden city surrounded Ben as he stood on the platform, unsure what to do next. The air was calm again, yet the silence was heavy. The tall, glowing figures who called themselves the Thurn remained kneeling in a half-circle before him. Their heads were bowed low, their light pulsing softly, almost like the rhythm of breathing. Ben swallowed and took a step backward. The light on the throne dimmed as if responding to his movement. He felt the urge to speak, to say something that would break the strange quiet. "I'm not a king," he said finally. His voice echoed faintly against the high crystal walls. "I don't even know who you are." One of the figures rose slowly. The glow around it softened, revealing more of its shape. Its face was smooth and pale like polished stone. Its eyes, faintly lit, seemed to hold a calm kindness. "You are Skyborn," the figure said. Its voice was gentle and carried a deep echo as if many voices spoke together. "You are the one who opened the gate. The sands obey you. The city knows your touch." Ben shook his head. "I only found an energy signal. I was following readings from my scanner." The figure tilted its head slightly. The signal was a call. The city sent it into the winds to seek the one who would awaken it. Only the Skyborn could hear. Ben looked down at his scanner. The small device now showed a bright, constant reading, far stronger than before. The pulse of light on the screen matched the rhythm of the city's glow. He felt a strange mix of fear and wonder. "If that's true," he said, "why me?" "Because you are of the Makers," the figure answered. "Your blood carries their light." Ben frowned. "I'm human. I'm just from Earth. There's nothing special about me." The figure stepped closer, stopping just a few feet away. "The word Earth is forgotten here, but its echo still lives in our songs. Long ago, your kind walked these halls. They built the lights that sleep beneath the dunes. We were their students. Their hands gave us life, and their wisdom made us strong." Ben's eyes widened. "You're saying humans built this city?" The figure nodded. "Yes, but they left before the sands rose. The storms came, the suns grew harsh, and the surface burned. The Makers fled to the stars. They said they would return when the sky opened again. We waited." Ben felt a chill run through him. The third story sounded impossible, yet the evidence surrounded him. The architecture, the technology, the energy readings, all of it hinted at something far beyond current human understanding. "You waited all this time," Ben said softly. "We have no time," the figure replied. "We are of light. We sleep when the suns rule above and wake when the gate opens. The city keeps us until the promise is fulfilled." Ben looked around at the vast glowing chamber. The walls seemed to hum in agreement. He felt as if the city itself was listening. Another figure stepped forward. This one wore a faint silver robe that shimmered with every movement. "We are the Seers of Thurnvallis," it said. "We read the patterns of sand and light. The coming of the Skyborn is written in the old words. You are the one foretold." Ben felt dizzy. "You keep saying Skyborn. What does that mean?" "The Skyborn is the one who carries the seed of the stars," the seer said. "The one whose breath will wake the heart of the city. The one who will lead us from the shadows of the dunes into the light of the open sky." Ben looked up at the faint glimmering ceiling, far above. "You want to go back to the surface?" "Yes," the seer said. "The sands have buried our world. We cannot rise without the voice of the Skyborn. You can command the city. It listens only to your kind." Ben stared at his hands. "You think I can control this place?" The seer raised one slender hand toward the nearest wall. "The light will answer you if you speak. Try and you will see." Ben hesitated. His heart beat faster as he turned toward the wall. The symbols pulsed gently like sleeping embers. He raised his hand and said the first word that came to his mind. "Light." The symbols brightened at once, glowing with warm golden color. The seers lowered their heads in awe. The air filled with a soft chime that vibrated through the chamber. Ben stepped back, his mouth slightly open. "It really works. The city knows its king," the seer said. Ben let out a slow breath. "I don't want to be anyone's king. I'm just trying to understand this place." "The understanding will come," the seer replied. "The city has much to show you. Come. There is a place prepared for you." The seers gestured toward a narrow passage at the side of the chamber. Ben followed them cautiously. The passage was lined with smooth, glassy walls that glowed faintly, lighting the way. The air was cool and dry, and the floor felt solid under his boots. As they walked, Ben asked, "How long has this city been buried?" The leading seer paused as if thinking. "The count of years is lost. When the first storms came, we went below. The dunes rose higher with each sun cycle. The stars changed above, and we knew many ages had passed. So thousands of years," Ben said quietly. "Maybe more." "Yes," the seer replied. "But the city remembers what we cannot. It holds the songs of the Makers." They reached an open courtyard filled with tall pillars shaped like spirals of glass. Soft light filtered through them, casting gentle patterns on the floor. In the center stood a pool of perfectly still water. Its surface reflected the light from the walls like liquid gold. "This is the Hall of Renewal," the seer said. "Here the city renews its strength when it sleeps. You must rest here, Skyborn. The city will speak to you in dreams." Ben hesitated, unsure. "I'm not sure I can sleep in a place like this." The seer smiled faintly, though its expression was strange, almost unfamiliar with the gesture. "The city will care for you. No harm will come to the Chosen One." The words comforted him, but only a little. He knelt beside the pool and touched the surface. The water rippled slightly, glowing faintly under his hand. He felt warmth spread through his arm, not unpleasant but strange. It was as if the water carried a faint hum of energy. "Is this water?" he asked. "It is the memory of water," the seer replied. "The Makers taught us to bind light and matter. What you see is both and neither." Ben took off his helmet, breathing the cool air for the first time. It was surprisingly clean and dry. He looked at the figures around him. "You said there were songs of the Makers. Can I hear them?" The seer nodded. It raised both hands, and the pillars around the pool began to glow brighter. A soft sound filled the air like wind through crystal. Then the sound grew into a melody. It was beautiful and haunting. The song had no words, only rising tones that seemed to form pictures in Ben's mind. He saw flashes of people building towers under a bright sky, ships lifting into the air, and smiling faces bathed in golden light. He felt the weight of their hope and their promise to return. When the song faded, Ben sat silently, moved by what he had seen. "They really were human," he whispered. "And you kept their promise." The seer bowed slightly. "We remember their light in our hearts." Ben looked around again, amazed by the beauty of the city. Despite the mystery and strangeness, he felt an odd sense of peace. "What happens now?" he asked. "The city must awaken fully," the seer said. "The heart is still sleeping. Only you can reach it." "The heart?" "The core that feeds the light. It lies deep below. When it sleeps, our power fades. If it dies, the city will crumble." Ben nodded slowly. "So you need me to reactivate it?" "Yes," the seer said. "When you do, the dunes will part, and Thurnvallis will rise again." Ben stood and looked at the still water. "Then I'll help you," he said. "If I can." The seers bowed deeply. "You honor us, Skyborn. The Feast of Crowns shall be prepared. The seers will guide you to the heart after you are blessed." Ben frowned. "Feast of Crowns?" "It is our ancient rite," the seer said. "A gift for the king who has returned." Ben smiled faintly. "I don't need any feast. I just want to understand the technology and help restore your systems." The seer's light shimmered. "All will be as the prophecy says. The crown is not of metal, it is of light." Ben nodded, though he still didn't understand completely. "All right," he said. "Lead the way." The seers guided him through winding corridors lined with glowing symbols. As they walked, Ben noticed that the light seemed to follow him. When he passed, the walls brightened. When he looked away, they dimmed again. It felt as though the city truly recognized him. He began to wonder if the Thurn were right. Maybe the people who had built this place were distant ancestors of humanity. Maybe something in his DNA allowed the city to respond. The thought filled him with pride, but also unease. At last, they reached another large hall. This one was round, with high ceilings and balconies that curved in circles above. In the center stood a table carved from crystal, surrounded by tall golden chairs. The seers gestured for him to sit. Ben hesitated, but finally took a seat. The surface of the table glowed faintly beneath his hands. One of the seers raised a hand and the walls began to shift. Panels opened silently, revealing trays of food, bright fruits, clear liquid in glass vessels, and soft bread that smelled faintly sweet. "Eat," the seer said. "You have traveled far. The sands take much strength." Ben smiled. "Thank you." He tasted the fruit first. It was cool and fresh, unlike anything he had eaten before. The sweetness filled his mouth, and he felt his fatigue fade. As he ate, the seers stood silently around him, watching. Their glowing faces showed no hunger, no expression, only calm. Ben tried to break the silence. "So after I reach the heart, what happens? Will the city come back to life?" The next morning, Ben awoke to a soft light spreading across the chamber. It was not sunlight, but a golden glow coming from the walls and floor. The city seemed alive again, humming with a quiet energy that made the air feel warm and gentle. He sat up slowly, stretching his arms. His body felt rested, his mind clear. The bed beneath him was made of some smooth material that shaped itself to his body, like memory foam made of light. For a moment he forgot he was buried beneath an alien desert. When he stood, the floor brightened under his feet, leading him toward the doorway. He stepped through and found two of the Thurn waiting. Their tall forms bowed slightly in greeting, their light shimmering faintly in the air. "Good morning," Ben said, still trying to sound casual. "I suppose it's morning down here." "It is the time of renewal," one of the Thurn replied. "The city awakens when you do." "The Seers await you in the Hall of Voices," Ben nodded. "All right, lead the way." They walked through long corridors lined with glowing symbols. The air was cool, filled with the faint hum of energy running through the walls. Ben looked around in wonder. Each step made the floor shine brighter, as if the city were alive and responding to him. They entered a tall chamber with curved walls covered in crystal patterns. The Seers stood in a circle around a raised platform, their robes flowing like liquid silver. The central Seer, the one Ben had spoken to before, stepped forward. "Welcome, Skyborn," the Seer said. "Today begins the Feast of Crowns. The prophecy moves toward its light." Ben smiled politely. "I still don't understand what this feast means. You said it was a rite of honor?" "It is more than that," the Seer said. "It is the binding between the city and the one who commands it. The crown is the mark of unity between light and flesh." Ben nodded slowly, though confusion still clouded his thoughts. "All right. What do I have to do?" "First, you must walk the path of mirrors," the Seer said. "It will show you what the city sees in you. Only those who are chosen may finish the walk." The Seers raised their hands, and the floor shifted. The center of the chamber opened silently, revealing a staircase leading downward. A faint blue glow came from below. Ben took a breath. "Let me guess. Down there?" "Yes," the Seer said. "We will follow." Ben started down the stairs, his boots echoing softly. The air grew cooler with each step. The walls glowed faintly with mirrored glass that reflected his image over and over. When he reached the bottom, he stood in a long hallway lined entirely with mirrors. The reflections shimmered strangely. They showed not only his body, but flashes of light moving behind him, like shadows of energy. When he took a step, the reflections shifted, showing different versions of himself. In one, he wore strange armor. In another, he stood beneath the twin suns, holding a glowing staff. Ben stopped, uneasy. "What is this place?" "It is the memory of the Skyborn," the Seer said behind him. "It shows what was, what is, and what may come." Ben reached out to touch the nearest mirror. The surface rippled like water under his hand. For a moment, he saw the reflection change. It showed him standing in the same chamber, but the Seers were kneeling and the city behind them shone brighter than ever before. Then the image faded, leaving only his reflection again. He stepped back. "These are visions?" "They are the city's memories," the Seer said softly. "It remembers your kind better than we do." Ben continued walking. The further he went, the brighter the light became. The mirrors ended at a large circular door made of smooth, glowing stone. Strange symbols pulsed along its edge. "The chamber beyond is the Hall of Crowns," the Seer said. "When you step through, the bond will begin." Ben looked at the door. "And after that?" "After that," the Seer said, "you will wear the light of the city and speak with its heart." Ben nodded, trying to calm his nerves. "Let's do this then." The door opened silently as he approached. Inside, the chamber was vast and circular, filled with floating rings of light. In the center stood a tall seat made of gold and crystal, surrounded by a pool of shimmering air that moved like liquid glass. The Seers stayed behind at the door while Ben stepped forward. The floor beneath his boots felt warm, almost alive. He stopped at the edge of the glowing pool. The Seer's voice echoed from behind him. "Place your hand in the light, Skyborn, and speak your name. The city will know you." Ben hesitated for a moment, then knelt and reached out. His hand touched the glowing air and warmth flowed up his arm. The energy spread through his body, gentle but powerful. "I'm Ben," he said quietly. "Ben from Earth," the light responded. It rose up around him, wrapping him in golden threads that shimmered and danced. The air filled with a deep sound like distant singing. The rings of light above began to spin slowly, casting soft patterns across the chamber. Ben closed his eyes as the warmth grew stronger. He saw flashes again. Images of the surface, of ships flying through the stars, of people walking in bright cities. Then he saw the dunes above and the buried towers below them. When he opened his eyes, a faint crown of light hovered above his head. The seers bowed deeply. "The crown accepts you," the leading seer said. "You are bound to Thurn Vallis. The city breathes through you now." Ben looked up at the glowing crown. It felt weightless, like sunlight touching his skin. "It's beautiful," he said softly. The seer stepped forward. "Now the feast begins. You must be honored before the journey to the heart." The chamber shifted again. The golden light dimmed, replaced by a soft blue glow. The walls opened, revealing a grand hall filled with tables and shining bowls of fruit and bread. The air carried a faint, sweet fragrance. Ben followed the seers into the hall. Music filled the air, soft and rhythmic, played by unseen instruments that made the whole space hum gently. He took a seat at the long crystal table. The seers stood around him, their light flickering gently in the dim blue glow. The leading seer raised a cup filled with clear liquid. "To the Skyborn," it said, "to the one who brings light to the sands." All the other seers repeated the words together. "To the Skyborn." Ben smiled nervously. "I'll take that as a toast." He lifted his own cup and drank. The liquid tasted like sweet rainwater, cool and refreshing. It filled him with a sense of calm and warmth that spread through his chest. The seers placed food before him. The fruits shimmered faintly as if holding small lights inside them. The bread was soft and warm. Everything tasted fresh, even though he could not imagine where such food came from in a buried city. "This is incredible," he said. "I've never seen anything like this." "It is made from the city's light," the seer said. "What the heart remembers, it can create again." Ben nodded. "You can make food from energy?" "Yes," the seer said. "The makers taught us the balance between matter and light. The feast is a symbol of that bond." Ben ate slowly, taking in every detail around him. The music grew softer, almost like a heartbeat. The glow from the walls reflected in the cups and plates, turning everything golden. As he ate, the seers began to chant quietly. Their voices rose and fell in a slow rhythm, blending with the hum of the city. The sound was peaceful, but there was something strange about it, a tone beneath the melody that he couldn't quite understand. He leaned back, feeling slightly dizzy. "What's happening?" "The city welcomes you fully," the seer said. "You are joining with its memory." Ben blinked as the lights seemed to waver. The room blurred for a moment, and he saw brief images of bright towers and ships in flight. He felt a strange tingling in his fingertips. "I think I need to rest," he said softly. The seer nodded. "Rest is part of the joining. Let the light guide your dreams." Ben tried to stand, but his legs felt weak. The warmth in his body was stronger now, almost too strong. He gripped the edge of the table, steadying himself. The seers watched silently, their glowing eyes calm and unreadable. Ben took a deep breath. "This is normal, right?" "The light always tests the chosen," the seer said. "You are strong. You will endure." Ben sat down again, closing his eyes for a moment. The dizziness faded slightly. When he opened them, the hall seemed brighter than before. The seers were moving in slow, graceful patterns around the table, their robes shimmering like silver mist. The leading seer approached and placed a hand over Ben's head. A gentle warmth spread from its palm. "Through the crown the bond is sealed," the seer said softly. "The city listens through your breath. Its heart beats with yours." Ben nodded weakly. "Then maybe it's time to wake it up." "Not yet," the seer replied. "First you must dream." The sound of the chant grew louder. The walls shimmered as if made of water. Ben felt the warmth turn into a soft glow within him. His vision blurred again, and the world seemed to sway like the tide. He saw the dunes above, shifting slowly in golden waves. Beneath them, the city pulsed like a living heart. A voice whispered faintly in his mind, soft, distant, and ancient. "The king has returned. The balance will begin." Then everything went quiet. The hum of the city faded to silence. Ben rested his head on his arms and closed his eyes, feeling the golden light surround him. The seers stood still around him, their chant complete. The leading seer looked down at him, its glowing eyes calm but unreadable. "The feast is complete," it said softly. "The heart will open soon." Ben slept peacefully, unaware that the city's glow now pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The seers bowed to him one last time before leaving the hall. The sound of their steps faded into the quiet hum of the golden city. Ben woke slowly. For a moment he could not tell where he was. The air was warm and filled with a low humming sound that vibrated through his bones. When he opened his eyes, he saw the golden ceiling above him glowing softly like a sunrise behind glass. The memory of the feast came back little by little. The music, the shining food, the crown of light, and the strange warmth that had flowed through his body. He sat up and rubbed his eyes. The room was quiet. The long table where the feast had taken place was still covered with untouched fruit and silver cups. The air smelled faintly of sweetness and something else, something metallic. His scanner on the table beside him blinked faintly. When he picked it up, the screen showed wild readings. The energy level in the city had risen 10 times higher than before. The heart is waking, Ben whispered to himself. He stood slowly, stretching his sore legs. The crown of light was still there above his head, though dimmer now. It pulsed gently with every beat of his heart. At that moment, the main door opened. The seer who had led the ceremony entered, its silver robe flowing across the smooth floor. Behind it came 2 more of the glowing figures, silent and graceful. Skyborn, the seer said, the feast is complete. The city hears you now. The path to the heart is open. Ben nodded. Then it's time to see what lies below. The seer bowed slightly. The heart sleeps in the deep chamber. It must be guided by your voice to awaken fully. Follow us! They left the hall and entered a corridor that seemed older than the rest of the city. The light along the walls was dimmer and the air carried the scent of dust and metal. Strange carvings ran along the walls, scenes of tall figures working beside humans, building towers under twin suns. Ben ran his hand over the carvings as they walked. So this is your history, he said. Yes, the seer replied. These are the first days when the Makers and the Thurn built together. The city was their promise of unity. But when the storms came, they left us to guard it. We waited for your return. Ben's steps slowed. The thought of humans building such a place and then leaving it behind felt heavy. You kept it alive for so long, he said quietly. The city kept us, the seer said. We are its memory. They reached a tall archway carved with symbols brighter than any he had seen before. Beyond it, a stairway spiraled down into glowing darkness. The heart is below, the seer said. Only you may step beyond this gate. We will wait here until you call. Ben hesitated. You're not coming? The heart must know only your voice. It will not open for us, the seer said. Ben took a deep breath and started down. The steps were smooth and narrow. With every step, he felt a stronger vibration through the soles of his boots, like the pulse of a great machine buried deep in the earth. The air grew cooler. The walls around him changed from golden to dark glass that reflected his face faintly. Soon he could hear a low rhythmic thrum, steady as a heartbeat. At the bottom of the stairs, he reached a wide chamber filled with light that seemed to float in the air like mist. In the center stood a large crystal sphere, suspended by thin golden beams that hummed softly. Inside the sphere, something glowed with a slow pulse of blue and white. Ben stared in awe. The heart of the city was alive. He stepped closer. The air around the sphere tingled against his skin, and the crown above his head shone brighter in response. A voice filled the chamber. It was soft but powerful, carrying through the air like music. Skyborn, you have returned. Ben froze. Who are you? I am the voice of Thurn Valis. I am the memory of the Makers and the guardian of the Thurn. Ben felt the weight of its presence. You've been waiting all this time? Waiting and watching, the voice said. The sands covered the city, but the promise remained. Now the light of the Makers burns again in your blood. You have awakened me. Ben looked up at the glowing sphere. If I've awakened you, what do you want me to do? Restore balance, the voice said. The dunes grow restless. The storms rise. The energy of this world fades. Only through the bond can the life of the city return. Ben frowned. The bond? What does that mean? The heart must merge with its king, the voice replied. Your breath gives it power. Your light completes it, Ben hesitated. I don't understand. Merge how? The voice was calm but firm. You will give part of your essence to the heart. It will feed upon your life to live again. Ben stepped back in alarm. Feed on my life? That sounds like you're asking me to die. The air grew heavy. The blue light in the sphere flickered. Not death, the voice said. Change. You will live through the city. The Makers became stars by giving themselves to the light. This is their path, Ben shook his head. No, that's not what I came for. I came to study, not to become part of a machine. The hum in the chamber grew louder, deeper. The floor trembled slightly. The Seers believe the prophecy must be fulfilled, the voice said. They will not let you leave without completing it. Ben felt a chill. They think this is destiny, but they don't understand what it means for me. They know, the voice said quietly. They believe their survival depends on it. Ben looked around the chamber. Then there must be another way. If this city is a machine, maybe I can reroute the power without any bond. Maybe I can wake it using energy from my suit. The voice was silent for a moment. Then it said, "You are not wrong, Skyborn. The Makers left many paths, but only one can be walked without harm. The others may break what still lives." Ben raised his wrist scanner and started typing quickly. The device linked to his suit, showing streams of data. He detected a faint magnetic field flowing through the chamber, stable but weak. He could amplify it using his equipment. He opened a small compartment on his arm and connected 2 thin wires to the floor. The scanner beeped softly. The hum of the chamber shifted. "What are you doing?" the voice asked. "I'm giving you power," Ben said, "but not mine. This is clean energy from my suit. It's small, but it'll boost your field long enough for you to stabilize." The blue glow inside the sphere grew brighter. The hum steadied. "You are different from the first Makers," the voice said softly. "You question the words of the Seers." "Sometimes questioning is how we survive," Ben said. The chamber grew still again. Then the voice spoke once more, quieter than before. "If you live, the Seers will not rest. They believe the bond must be complete. They will come soon." Ben's pulse quickened. "Then I'll need a way out." The sphere pulsed once, and the wall behind him shimmered, revealing a narrow tunnel. "This passage leads to the outer halls," the voice said. "Go, Skyborn. The dunes will shift again, but your path is your own." Ben turned toward the tunnel but paused. "What about you? If I leave, what happens to the city?" "The city will sleep once more until a new path opens. The sands will protect it." Ben looked at the glowing sphere. "Thank you." "The promise remains," the voice said. "May your light find the sky." Ben ran into the tunnel. The air rushed past him, cooler now. The walls glowed faintly, guiding him upward. After several minutes of climbing, he reached another chamber. It looked like the Hall of Mirrors he had seen before, but the reflections now showed the city shaking faintly, as if the ground above were moving. He could hear voices behind him echoing faintly through the tunnels. The Seers were calling his name, Skyborn. "The heart awaits." "Do not flee the light," Ben quickened his pace. His scanner beeped softly, warning him of rising energy levels. The crown above his head flared brighter, responding to the pulse of the city. He reached a tall gate that led back toward the main halls. The door opened before he could touch it, and several Seers stood waiting on the other side. Their golden light was brighter now, almost blinding. The leading Seer stepped forward. "Skyborn," it said, "the heart calls for you. Why do you turn away?" Ben took a step back. "The heart doesn't need me. It only needs energy, and I gave it that. It's stable now." The Seer shook its head slowly. "You cannot deceive the city. The prophecy cannot be changed. The bond must be made." Ben held his ground. "No. The bond is just another way to keep you alive. You want to use me to feed the city. I won't do that." The Seer's light dimmed slightly and its voice softened. "Without you, we fade. Without the bond, Thurnvalis will fall back into silence." Ben's heart pounded. Then maybe silence is better than sacrifice. The Seers stood still for a moment, their light flickering in the dim air. Then the leading Seer lowered its head. "If you choose to break the prophecy, the city will choose for you." The ground shook gently. The walls glowed brighter. The hum of the city turned sharp, vibrating through the floor. Ben lifted his wrist scanner and pressed a sequence of buttons. His suit's defense system activated, forming a faint blue barrier around him. "I'm not staying," he said firmly. He stepped backward through the gate. The Seers did not follow. They stood in silence, their golden light reflecting on the mirrored walls. As Ben turned to run, he heard the voice of the city once more, calm and distant. "The choice has been made. The light will remember you." He ran through the tunnels, following the faint glow of escape passages. The hum of the city grew quieter the farther he went. Finally, he saw a narrow shaft of sunlight shining through a crack in the ceiling. He climbed toward it, his boots slipping on loose sand that had begun to fall through the opening. When he reached the top, he pushed against the sand until it gave way. The hot air of the surface rushed over him. He pulled himself out of the hole and fell onto. The suns had begun to set when Ben started walking again. The wind carried long waves of sand that brushed against his legs and whispered through the dunes. The air was cooler now, and the shadows stretched far across the desert. Behind him, the sand had already swallowed the last trace of the hidden city. The golden glow that had once filled the horizon was gone, replaced by silence and wind. Ben's suit hummed quietly as he walked. The scanner on his wrist still blinked faintly, showing the pulse of energy deep below the surface. The city was sleeping again, but not dead. He knew that. The soft rhythm of its heartbeat seemed to echo faintly under his feet, as if reminding him that it still remembered him. He stopped on a high ridge and turned to look back one more time. For a moment he thought he saw a shimmer beneath the dunes, a faint line of light running across the sand like a buried star. Then it faded, leaving only darkness. Ben sighed. "Goodbye, Thurnvallis," he whispered. He adjusted his pack and started toward the east, where the faint outline of his camp beacon blinked in the distance. His water supply was low, and his energy cells were nearly empty, but the thought of getting back to his ship kept him moving. He needed to send his report before the storms returned. The desert was silent except for the wind. The sky above him slowly turned from orange to purple as night approached. The stars appeared, bright and sharp, scattered across the twin-sun sky. Ben stopped for a moment to look at them. Somewhere among those stars was Earth, his home, far beyond the reach of this silent world. He remembered the voice of the city. The makers became stars by giving themselves to the light. The thought made him shiver. He did not know if it had been a warning or a blessing. Hours passed. The dunes all looked the same, and Ben began to feel the weight of exhaustion. His steps grew slower and the sand dragged at his boots. His scanner beeped faintly to remind him of his low energy level. He checked the direction again and kept walking. When the first pale moon rose, Ben saw something unusual on the horizon, a dark shape half buried in sand. It was not a natural formation. As he approached, he realized it was the remains of an old ship. The hull was broken, its surface rusted and half covered by drifting dunes. He climbed up the side carefully and peered inside. The interior was dark, filled with twisted metal and dust. The air smelled dry and still. The ship must have crashed here many years ago. Ben found a small opening in the wall and crawled inside. It was narrow but offered shelter from the wind. He dropped his pack and sat down, leaning against the cold metal. The silence was deep. For a while he simply sat there, letting his body rest. After some time he turned on his wrist scanner again. The readings from the city were still present, though weaker now that he had moved farther away. The pulse was steady, almost like a heartbeat. "It's still alive," he said quietly. "Still watching." He opened his data pad and began to record a message. "Exploration log, day 12. I found evidence of an ancient city under the southern dunes. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. The energy levels are extraordinary. The inhabitants, or what remains of them, appeared to be sentient light forms. They believed I was someone called the Skyborn. They called me king. I don't know why. The city tried to form a bond with me, but I refused. It's sleeping again now." He paused and looked out through the broken wall of the ship. The wind carried fine waves of sand through the cracks, glowing faintly in the moonlight. "I think the city isn't dangerous," he continued. "It's lonely. It waited too long for someone who would never return. Maybe it saw a part of them in me. Maybe that's why it chose me." He ended the recording and saved it. The data would reach his team when he returned to the base. He hoped they would understand what he had seen. Ben closed his eyes for a moment. The air inside the wreck was still, but he could hear a faint humming sound, soft and steady. It reminded him of the heart chamber deep below the dunes. He wondered if the sound was real or if it was only in his memory. When he opened his eyes again, a faint light flickered on the wall opposite him. It was soft and golden, like a reflection of the city's glow. Ben sat up quickly. The light moved, forming a small shape that hovered in the air. It was a sphere no larger than his hand, glowing with gentle warmth. "Hello again, Skyborn," a voice said softly. Ben's breath caught. "You followed me?" "A fragment of the heart was bound to you," the voice replied. "Where you walk, a part of the city walks too." Ben looked at the sphere with wide eyes. "I thought you were gone." "The city sleeps," the voice said, "but its memory does not. You gave it a new path. I came to see where that path leads." Ben hesitated. "What do you want from me?" "To learn," the voice said simply. The makers gave us purpose, but time took it away. You have given us a choice again. Ben relaxed slightly. Then maybe you can help me too. I don't know how to explain what I found down there. No one on Earth will believe me. They will see what you bring, the voice said. The city's light is within you now. Ben frowned. What do you mean within me? The sphere floated closer. A faint glow spread across his hands, running through the veins of his skin like soft golden lines. He felt warmth but no pain. When you touched the heart, it marked you, the voice said. You are connected to the energy of Thurnvallis. You can call to it even across the stars. Ben stared at the glowing lines. So I'm carrying part of your power? Not power, the voice said. A bridge. Through you, the city can learn about the world above again. Ben lowered his hand. Then you can see what I see? Yes, the voice said. And you can feel what we feel, he smiled faintly. Then maybe you'll understand something new about being human. The sphere pulsed gently, almost like laughter. Perhaps that is why the Seers named you king. Ben shook his head. I'm no king. I just wanted to find the truth. A true king does not seek a throne, the voice said softly. Outside, the wind grew stronger. The dunes shifted and the ship's frame creaked. The sphere floated toward the opening in the wall. The storm returns, the voice said. You must move before the sands rise again. Ben stood and picked up his pack. Then let's go. The sphere glowed brighter and drifted ahead of him, lighting the path as he climbed out of the wreck. The desert was darker now, the moons half hidden behind clouds of dust. The wind roared softly as fine sand filled the air. They moved together across the dunes. The sphere's glow guided his steps, casting a gentle light on the sand. Ben could barely see the horizon, but the sphere moved with purpose, leading him in a straight line. After some time, they reached a rocky ridge that rose above the dunes. Ben climbed to the top and looked out. Below, in the distance, faint lights shimmered through the storm. They were not natural. That's the base, he said with relief. I can make it from here. The sphere floated beside him silently. Ben turned to it. Will you go back now? The city will sleep until you return, the voice said. But a part of me will remain. The dunes remember the Skyborn. Ben nodded slowly. Then maybe one day I'll come back. If you do, the heart will hear you, the voice said. The sphere pulsed one last time, its light flickering like a fading flame. Then it dissolved into small sparks that drifted away on the wind. The sound of its hum faded into silence. Ben stood alone on the ridge, watching the distant lights of his base through the haze. The storm wind pushed against him, but he felt calm. The city beneath the sand was safe again, waiting. He took one last look at the dunes before turning toward the lights. The crown of faint warmth still rested above his head, invisible but present. As he walked, he thought of the Seers in the glowing halls, of the heart that had spoken to him, and of the promise that the light would remember. When he finally reached the base, the doors opened with a soft hiss. The air inside was cool and filled with the quiet hum of machines. His fellow explorers were still away on another route. For now, he was alone again. He placed his pack on the table and connected his datapad to the main console. The system lit up, displaying his recordings. He hesitated for a moment, then pressed the send key. The report would travel to the orbital station, and from there to Earth. Somewhere, someone would listen to his words and see the data he had gathered. Maybe they would come to this planet one day. Maybe they would find what he found. He turned off the scanner and sat back. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the power units. Through the window, he could see the desert stretching into darkness, the sand glowing faintly under the twin moons. Ben closed his eyes and listened. For a moment, he thought he could still hear the gentle pulse of the city deep below the ground. It was faint but steady, like a heartbeat under the dunes. He smiled. Sleep well, Thurnvallis, he said softly. Outside, the wind settled. The storm passed. The dunes shimmered under the moonlight. Far below the surface, deep in the golden chambers of the sleeping city, the heart pulsed once in answer. The light had not forgotten. And though the Skyborn had left the sands, the city of Thurnvallis whispered his name in dreams of gold and wind, waiting for the day when the king of sand and shadow would return.